You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith and I've got an extraordinary interview subject coming up for you. His name is Erik Danielsson. He is from the outfit Watain. The reason for the conversation is to promote Watain's February 2019 tour of Australia and New Zealand. So let's have a listen to what Erik has to say. Here we go. Hello, mate. How's things been going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Have we been? How's the Aussie Indie Journo media the contingent, mate? How have we been treating you? Hopefully, well.
Not bad at all, actually.
Yeah.
It's been an easy day. I'm at the studio here painting banners for the stage. So
Sweet.
It's a good. So I'm doing some talking meanwhile.
Oh, excellent! Oh, good stuff. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And look, it's I didn't get an opportunity to chat to you when you were doing the media rounds for Trident with Eclipse, but I guess that's going to be my first statement for you. I want to congratulate you on that because I think it's an epic album. I know it's a year old.
Thank you so
now.
much, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's a year old now, but it's just another colossal episode in the Watain catalogue. So I certainly hope you've been given that feedback from fans and other indie journo types.
It feels like a well-received album, I suppose. You're always a bit biased because, what I see is the face of the crowd in the front, and they're usually not yawning, So
not at your shows.
No, it's been a very good album to tour with, and one of the albums that feel very uncomplicated, it's a straightforward album. That was the whole point. And there's not, compared to the Wild Hunt, which was of a different nature, this one was very, very empowering and good to tour with.
Well, I'll tell you something, that'll be my next point actually. We'll talk about the Wild Hunt because the band Satanic Philosophy Be Damned, Watain are actually a chart-topping band, and they have been since that album. Now, I don't know whether you knew this, and I checked before I got on the call, but you actually beat Agnetha from ABBA, One Direction, and John Mayer when the Wild Hunt went to number one on the Swedish national charts in August of 2013. So, look, the point around that is you've got to be pretty proud of that accomplishment because for a band as uncompromising as Watain, you didn't just compete, but you beat, and I'm talking about strictly commercial terms here, but you beat these bloody artists that are so ingrained and they're so out there. They're in dentist surgeries, shopping centres, McDonald's, but you beat them. So you got to feel proud of that accomplishment.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it means that you're doing something that has an impact, and I think for me as an artist, that's the accomplishment. I think I don't mind any kind of reaction as long as it's a strong one and as long as it can be felt,
Yeah.
And I mean, I suppose these short positions and so forth they played their role in determining that as well, of course. But I'd be lying if I say that that's like my main point of focus when I think about achievement, but of course it has its merits, absolutely.
Something to share with your parents anyway, when you first start a band.
I suppose, yeah, exactly. It's like the one relatable thing.
Yeah, totally, And I guess that's your global popularity means that you can come to the Antipodes, that's Australia and New Zealand down here, and you've got 5 shows that are coming up in February, and I can assure you that there are a hell of a lot of fans that are very eager to attend. So can you tell me about the show that you'll be bringing down?
Exactly. So the Australian and New Zealand part of the tour is, it's a part of a longer tour that we're doing that's actually stretching 2 months, which is one of the longest tours we've ever done. So we'll start off in South America, and then after that we'll fly to Melbourne. We have a few weeks in Melbourne, actually.
Sweet.
And then we start off the tour. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things we've been struggling with, and one of the things we're always struggling with when we're going that far and traveling by plane is that, we can't bring the truckload of hell machinery that we do when we're touring in Europe and the States, obviously. So
yeah,
it's going to be, of course, there's of course going to be traditional Watain show elements, but it's definitely going to be more intimate settings and much more It's going to be a compressed type of show, which I personally look forward to immensely, because I'm getting a bit wary of always kind of relying on, a huge stage production. I kind of miss doing things a little bit more simple, or at least it's nice to have both of those things,
Yeah.
But it's interesting also, because I talk to people from Europe, from the fan club, for example, who have seen us here a bunch of times with this big stage show, and they're also they're a bit envious now of the people that's going to see this tour, because it's going to be much more,
Yeah.
I don't know, just straightforward, and Watain in a much more primitive setting, kind of. I really look forward to that.
Sounds like it's the Ramones version of Watain, which I love the Ramones. So
yes, exactly. That's a very good comparison, actually.
Wicked. Hey, you've got a fabulous working relationship, and I'm going to mispronounce. Is it Torres Stjerner? Apologies for my bloody Australian.
Yeah. Norris, Tore Stjärna, yeah. Exactly.
There you go. Okay, so you've worked with him across many albums, but I tell you something,
Yes.
as wonderful as the relationship is with Torre, I'd love to see Watain work with a Michael Beinhorn, I should say, or a Bob Rock type of producer, like to bring that massive rock sound to the band's sound. Do you think that'd ever be on your radar in the future?
Well, it's definitely on our manager's radar. but I don't know. I mean, for me, by the time we decide that who we're going to work with, which has always been Tore,
Yep.
I always need to be at the point where the album is completely done, and I have a pretty, we all have a pretty clear vision of what it is we want to do.
Yeah.
And so far, those visions and those ideas of, what the album is going to be like, they have all corresponded really well to how Tore works. One of the things that happens when you work with the same producer for each album is that you buy yourself quite a lot of time, but also you buy yourself a lot of, you don't have to go through the whole turbulence and, mind-boggling business of trying to get a new creative person into your world.
Yeah.
And with a band like Watain, we tried. I can tell you that we tried
really?
A few
Yeah.
times working with other people, but we like to stick to our own circle of people, and we like to keep things within our realm, so to say. I'm still not saying that I'm not. I'm completely open for other collaborations as well, and I would definitely be interested in seeing what would happen if you take, the Watain spirit and put it to a different kind of machinery. But I don't know. We haven't done that yet. We'll see what happens.
See what happens.
That's all I can say.
Well, it was a bit of a surprise to me that you hadn't worked with Pete Tagtron, actually, because I thought for sure in your catalogue somewhere that there would have been the opportunity. So has that ever been something that you've discussed in the past, or is that potentially something you'll do?
I like a lot of Peter's productions. I also don't like a few of his productions. I think that he's really got his own. I think he's got his own style. I like what he did with the Destruction comeback album, for example. I think that sounds great.
Celtic
I love
Frost,
as well. Yes, absolutely. That's a prime example, and even the Immortal albums, the ones that he done. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm super curious about what he would do with Watain. Absolutely. But again, it's always when we get to that point, that we're actually feel ready to book a studio and record. That's a very climactic point where things really need to go right from the start.
No, indeed.
So, yeah.
All right, a different question for you, and I don't think many people will know that you're actually a very big, and I understand you are because I listened to an interview with, I can't remember who it was with, sorry, but a couple of hours ago I was listening to it, a lady from the US, I think she's from, but you explained that you were a big Rolling Stones and Beatles fan, that you grew up with them. And they provided some, well, it doesn't surprise me at all because it might sound naff, mate, but I can actually hear elements of the Beatles in the sound. Potentially it's just in the counterpoint of the way you produce melody, because I've always found, as uncompromising as the band's philosophy might be, there's always been melody with Watain. It's always been one of those bands you can listen to. And I feel when you said that you're a big fan of the Beatles and you grew up with them, that's where I went, that's it. Of course, it comes from many places, but that'd be one of the places that it comes from. So which of the Beatles and the Stones albums did you gravitate to or did you listen to growing up?
I think with Beatles, it was definitely Revolver.
Cool.
And I also, I mean, if you want more... if you want to know more ways that Beatles have influenced us, you can just take a look at that cover, because to me it looks like a fanzine, the Black Death Metal Underground fanzine painting almost, you know.
Yep.
With Stones, I would almost say at their Satanic Majesty's request, which is obviously I was very, you know, later on when I got a bit older, I was obsessed with that title, and you know, the whole story about Rolling Stones being affiliated with all sorts of, you know, outlawish and occult groups and all that. But yeah, no, it's cool that you mention it, and I mean, cool. I will definitely not. I cannot find any reason to not agree. I would add though that, I mean, besides those bands, which were obviously some of my earliest musical experiences, I mean, I listened to a lot of, what do you say? Well, that type of music. You know, I listened to a lot of music from the 60s and 70s, and I also see very clearly how that has colored, you know, some of my favorite heavy metal bands. And I mean, obviously, you know, early Priest or AC/DC or you know, these type of bands obviously came from that background, you know, to a certain extent. So yeah, I mean, it's all tied together, and the important point here being made is probably that, I mean, you gotta, if you want to do this, you need to know about the source of things. You need to know the source material.
For sure. Yeah.
I think, you know, it's inevitable if you want to be able to develop as a musician.
I think the older you get to, I'm in my 40s, so the older you get, you really develop an appreciation for these foundation artists like Pink Floyd.
Yeah, definitely. It's a getting older thing as well, of course.
But it goes beyond the Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath thing. And there's a lot of cliches with heavy metal artists that we just gravitate toward them, but I listen to disco and all sorts of stuff, you know, and it really didn't surprise me at all. And I'm so glad you're given that context through your answer there with your love of the Beatles and the Stones. Sure.
I think disco is my limit, though.
It is for most people, but I'm a bass player. But I'm a bass player, you see, so I get into it from that perspective.
Yeah, and, of course, I get it. Yeah, of course. But there's so much fucking music from that era to explore, you know, and especially now when everything is up for grabs and available. I mean, there's, you know, if you can spend the rest of your life just listening to 60s and 70s stuff and finding new stuff all the time.
It's incredible, especially that they're releasing a lot of these indie things that were not available for public consumption for, up to 40 years now on Bandcamp.
Absolutely.
Bandcamp's doing a lot of re-releases, and they're incredible. Some of this stuff is coming from Latin America.
Yeah, I bet.
It's cool. Hey, how's the tour with Ken and the lads in Destroyer 666?
What do you think?
Bit of a rager.
A bit of a rager. It was amazing. It was the first tour first full tour, I should say, that we did for the album. And I mean, obviously we know Destroyer since way back. We toured with them for the first time in 2007 or something like that. I might be wrong. I'm not too good with years, but and they've been old friends since. I mean, I think I met Keith for the first time in the 90s. So it was. We tried to do that. You know, we always try to do that. Like I said, we're not a super easy band to work with, and especially on tour, you need people around you that you know won't. You know, that are of the same ilk.
Yeah, cut from the same cloth. He has a very good touring partnership.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that was, of course, why we asked them, and doing it in the States also, which is like quite how to say. I mean, there's a lot of the tours in the States are wild. You know, they're super unpredictable. You get from, you know, one place to another, and they're totally different. You know, you can play at a small club one day and at a huge theater one day. It's vast, and it opens up for a lot of mischief and a lot of turbulence, and we adding those two bands to the mix helped as well. So it was great, good start. Most likely we'll be doing it many times again. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, look, I'll certainly be in the crowd in Brisbane when you guys come down here, mate. So congratulations again on an outstanding career. I look so forward to seeing what you guys do in the years ahead. I really do feel like yourself and Behemoth and I know Deaf Heaven are very different to you guys, but Deaf Heaven, you know, there's so many wonderful blackish metal sounds out there for people to wrap their ears around, and
absolutely,
and it's just an awesome time to be listening to music and as a fan. So thanks so much for your contribution, mate.
Absolutely, and thanks for having us. And I mean, the Brisbane show should be small as fuck from what I heard.
Yeah.
But it's also we also got a nice collaboration there with our fan club who are working on some on stuff to fill that stage with. So that should be one of the highlights actually of that tour.
Yeah, I think if Ian is doing, I don't know if you know who's doing the sound for the tour, but Ian Redmond, I think.
You know what? Actually, it's Tora who is doing the sound for us. He's doing the sound for us live as well. Yeah, so that's a huge benefit for us.
Gosh, it'll be awesome then. God, I can't wait.
Yeah,
if that's the case. Yeah,
it should be awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, mate. All right, I'll let you get to the next one. Thanks so much again, mate.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You
Cheers.
too, man. All right, catch ya.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that conversation featured Erik Danielsson from the band Watain. Thank you so much for listening.